what happens is there is no financial hand-holding that happens to a school promoter, somebody who wants to start school. What percent of the revenue has to go into salaries? What percentage has to be retained for future expansions? Like, with NEP coming in, a lot of schools need, funds. But do they have provided for in last 10 years in terms of retained earnings? So my advice to school promoters would be to have financial prudence, whether it is for profit or not. These days everybody talks about sustainability. I talk about financial sustainability of a school. So you need to have the right business plan with decent apportionment of expenses everywhere, where, if you are not paying a certain percentage of the revenue as your salary, you are under delivering. So I would say, just to understand the right business model, and also people after the NEP, I'm sure a lot of schools are going to remodel themselves, both financially as well as academically. So what we need to understand is, do you have the right values? Do you have the right pedagogies? Do you, and for schools that want to transform into an NEP enabled, NEP ready schools, the transition is going to be really important, both financially as well as academically. So my advice would be to kind of go back and draw a decent business plan, and also factor each and every cost that is needed, as rightly mentioned by them. The right cost apportionment, with a focus to upgrade the infrastructure, as well as something called teachers training, because the real warriors of change in an NEP enabled, or a 21st century school with skills, are going to be teachers.
Now, let's understand from Mr. Rohan, but what does he think about this new education policy, and do you see this actually aiding growth of schools in India?
New education policy is a very broad thing. Like, the education policy talks about many things, and it's a game changer, because as of today, or till now, basically, we were content driven. The focus was on the content. NEP asks us to change this and go from content to the other aspects of learning, to skill development as such, to focus on the skill. We have a problem that we were too much content driven, so finding it children, the students who are there is the common complaint of the industry, that they are not industry ready. Okay, the main reason for them that is because the children were not exposed to anything. So your content or curriculum, there is a limit to which it can help you in your career as such. You can't work with the content which is 25 years old and carry on with your careers. For you to grow in your career, or you to become a part of a job or a industry or a vocation or a profession, you require many more things. Absolutely. So this is where the change is being looked at. So the NEP basically talks about changing this. It starts with the organization of education as the school industry as such, from what we have today as nursery, junior, senior, being then the primary section, and then the secondary section. It moves the first 5 years of the basic foundational years, and then it goes to the preparatory years. So it's not only the change of terminology, it's the change in which education has to happen. So the first pre-primary stage was the most neglected stage, because what is there to teach? ABCD, a few songs, and you're done. That's the mindset which most of the schools had. So they focuses that this is the most formative years of the child, and this is where you have to concentrate. So that is where the change is coming, and they have included grade 1 and 2 with that. So, and they want a totally different methodology of teaching these students. So the focus is on the development of the particular skills of the child. You looking at not making them learn the letters of the alphabet.
Understood.
So the NEP wants us to focus on the pre-primary education and the preparatory years, which we call, so that the students are not only talking about learning about the content, which is then of course a part of it, but they are also developing certain skills that are required for them. So all those things are starting from the pre-primary stage itself. NEP also speaks about making learning joyful. So children are actually interested to come to school. It talks about interdisciplinary teaching instead of having a hard distinguish between the math and the English and this. So there are so many things that are happening in that. Apart from that, it also talks about the assessments, the difference in the quality of the assessments, the holistic assessment that has to take place, the continuous assessment that has to take place, the competency based assessment that has to take place. It talks about infrastructural developments that are required. It talks about teachers training. It talks about there are so many other the accreditation and the documentation, and which may be the most difficult of the entire thing, which frustrates people. The most difficult thing I would say. So there are many aspects of NEP, and as far as the schools are concerned, they are of course changing. Okay, the changes are bound to happen because the government is of course pushing it, but individually they have to be looking at the whole thing to understand what and how they can reach this stage. It's not that 1 year, 2 year, 5 year program. It's going to be a long process.
Yeah.
We have to change our entire mindset to do that. There schools have to get ready and to gear up for it. That is how it is going to work.
So it's obviously going to be a challenge for students to, for the schools to actually learn, unlearn, relearn.
Yeah, it is going to be, it is a challenge. Now, if you ask me how to go about it, then of course it's not going to be easy path. So what I would advise is that the path, you at least read the document. You have to approach it with a open mind. You hear it from here and there, and most of the times it is like there is a lot of negativity in the discussions, that what difference will it make, and why is this required like this, and why it should be like this. So this, instead of being negative, I would advise people first go through the document without any bias, without trying to understand too much, without trying to think how am I going to implement this. Make a plan just to understand the whole plan, and then maybe you start working on what are the easiest things for you to do. Make a list of things. You understand that it's very easy to make learning very joyful, and learning make it student centric, making from moving it from teacher centric to being a child centric school. You look at that and how it can be done in the pre-primary stages, which is the easiest. You can look at training the teachers, that what kind of pedagogies are around, what are the pedagogies that I was using and now what I should be using, how I can make the changes. You can teach teachers to use or leverage the AI now, which is there, which makes it very simple to develop a good lesson plan, which is in sync with we can ask the AI to make it interdisciplinary. If you don't understand it, you can at least read the document, you can understand. So teachers training and the small changes can keep on happening. A lot of focus for as on the foundational literacy and numeracy. So how do we make that foundation sure for the literature program, for the language program, and for the numeracy or the mathematics, the math program? So these are small changes that can happen. You can look at the small uh, administrative changes that you can do as your teachers are working. You can ask them to document whatever they are doing, and so you will learn that it's a process that you already started without actually doing much.
So all in all, a lot
of things can be done if you
Yeah.
don't get overwhelmed by the whole thing.
I think an open mind is probably the most
It's the
important
most
part.